Hello everybody and welcome to Mr. Stansfield's education videos. Today we're taking a look at actions and specifically how this particular action, this particular oil painting action might help us when we're doing our pet portrait. Let's get into it. So I've already run the action. Setting up the action and running it, there's a whole kind of website that you can do, that you can take a look at in order to set this action up and to run it. There are some things that you have to do, some settings that you have to adjust before you run it, but once you run it, your Photoshop layers should look something like this. Now, I've got my picture of Lucy, my dog here. I'm going to turn off the whole group, the whole painterly output group here, and if I minimize the group, you can see I've got my background. This is the original image. And then here's the group. This is what the action actually does. Now I've also got some layer masks going on here, and I wanted to draw our attention to a couple of things. This particular treatment is a little bit too painterly for most of the images that we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now I've started this. This is the one of the paintings that I've provided. I've started this with the image that we're looking at here. Now, you might notice that the face is flipped, so I wanted to just draw your attention to one of the things that you may want to do when you're working on this, and that's when you're working on getting the pet head into the head of the painting. One of the things that I don't think they really talk about in the video is you can go here to edit transform and you can flip it horizontal. So this is the original image and then I flipped it. So you may want to do that. The other thing that you can do is free transform. There's a couple of things that you can do here with the free transform. But one of the things you can do is actually puppet warp or perspective warp. Let's take a look at the puppet warp. So in this case, the puppet warp, we could plot a point. Let's go ahead and do it right here. All right, one of the points. And then if we click another point, it allows you to move the whole thing around that one point. So you can see that what it's doing is it's sort of pivoting on the point. So let's go ahead and just lock it into place here with a couple of these other points. And then let's try to move this here. So you can see here, if we were to throw some more points in there, the more points you have, the more control you have over that. So you may want, I'm going to hit escape. I don't want to do that puppet warp in this case, but you may want to. Let's get back here. So we can see that like this is a painterly painting. You can see the brush strokes, you can see the texture of the canvas. But this particular treatment is a little bit too much. So when you run this action, if you wanted to use it, keep in mind that you can use the layer masks over here on each of these, as well as open up each subgroup. So in this case, the additional strokes, the default is to only have the top three, the dots, visible. But if you wanted to add lines and dry strokes, or to turn off dots and lines, maybe only have the dry strokes, find the matching style, these additional strokes, you can find a style that works for the painting that you're using. Now the other thing that you can do here is use this layer mask. If I turn the layer mask off, you can see that the additional strokes, when I have everything turned on, there's all of these lines here and it's really disrupting. So what I can do, the black areas of this layer mask, if we look at it by holding the Option or Alt key down and clicking on the layer mask, you can see the black areas of the layer mask are hiding the effect of this layer. If I turn the layer off completely, you can see that it's adding some additional brush strokes. Now, this reveal details layer is essentially taking the paint base, pasting that layer above the strokes layers, and then you can use the layer mask. Its default is to fill with black, but you can use the layer mask to paint with white to bring back some of those details. So the other thing is, let's turn this layer mask on. So you can see here what I did was I realized that the large, chunky, sort of impressionist style stroke is is not what I want. I don't want this sort of chunky style stroke here. So what I did was added this layer mask and on this area. So here's before the layer mask and then after the layer mask. I started this. I still probably want to fine tune this. Here's the reveal details. So in this case, I was looking for a little bit of detail around Lucy's eyes. I thought that was kind of critical. And so here's the layer mask that I ended up with. Again, just started to kind of look at how painting in the reveal details layer mask would affect this. Finally, the last layer is the paint FX, and this is a texture overlay. And if we look here at the group, we can see that there are many different kinds of texture overlays. So this is an important step in this process, going in here and turning each one of these on individually to see which brush strokes match the style of the painting that we're trying to do. So, you know, in this case, maybe brush strokes 2 here is the one that I want. This is something that's going to take some experimenting with to like nail down exactly the kind of image that you're looking for. Now, when you're done and ready to export this, and I would actually recommend the borders, just turning that layer off completely. When you're done and you're ready to export this, what you need to do is select your top layer and hold down on a Mac, Shift, Command, Option, and then press the letter E. And what that will do is take all of the layers and paste it onto a new layer. So basically, what we could essentially throw these away, and this layer 1 will take all of the effects that we've chosen and paste them onto a new layer. And then we would make our selection here in the video tutorial that you're using. It says to just make a rough outline, copy, and then paste. So Command C, and then we'll go over here and paste it. So you can see that the painting of Lucy versus the picture of Lucy is a little bit different. Now it's a little bit too textured, and so, you know, finding the perfect details, finding all of the ways that you want to match the style of this action, this effect, to the style of your painting itself. I do think that going through and spending some time on this here to try to match it and get it to be perfect is definitely a good choice, and I would recommend, I'm just going to throw that layer away there, turn the rest of these layers on here, and deselect. I would recommend going into the paint effects, finding the best mode, right? So you turn the eyeball on here. Brushstrokes 2, let's say, is the best for us. But then you turn the opacity down. These brushstrokes here, for the most part, you want to be not quite as strong. And in this case, I think the ear is kind of a little bit too impressionistic, so I would fine-tune this even more, and then I would bring it in after I've run the action and after I've kind of matched all of the details the way that I want. Do that Shift, Command, Option E on a PC to back up really quickly. If you wanted to paste onto a new layer, it's Shift, Alt, Control, E. Those are the 4 keys that you have to hold down in order to get that. Oh, and in this case, it's pasting it here in the Painterly output. I think actually what I would want to do is undo that and select the Painterly output and then Shift, Command, Option E. Let's see if that'll put it above there. It does. Okay. And so now when I make a selection and drag that, the problem is if I don't do that, right, and if I have some random layer selected over here and I make a selection and then copy and paste, Command C and then Command V, you can see it doesn't paste the thing that I want because it's got, you know, whatever layer, the small strokes layer was selected. In this case, the group, small layers group. So I would recommend looking at each layer, seeing what each layer does, turning all of the eyeballs off. You can hold down the Option key and press an eyeball and it'll show you what's happening in that layer. And then Option, press the eyeball again, or Alt on a PC. And again, like, you know, you can kind of see what each layer is doing. It's pretty interesting. This particular action, there's a lot happening. So there you go. Definitely fine-tune this action output before you bring it into your painting. Try to match the style, and then follow all of the rest of the instructions in that tutorial. You may or may not end up doing the filter, so you'll have to kind of play around with it a little bit to see how this action can help you to get better results. Good luck.